Don't get tongue-tied because we're here with the NJCAA season opener. My name is Sticula. I'm here alongside Chief for this best of three endeavor in the junior college level that we're about to dive into.
We have a great series in our hands today, Reese. This is Barton University, the fall 2021 champions, and to make it even more sweet, this is a revenge tour of the semifinals as Hawkeyes try to, well, undo that black mark that they received in the semifinals from the previous season. Hawkeyes, well, they have tasted victory in the past. They are the former 2020 champions.
Yeah, it's good to have that storyline of these teams having met previously, and I've got a little something special here as well. I have met one of these teams previously. I casted the Red Tails all the way back in October of 2020. I was like 17 then. Like this was so far back, and it was my first ever game casting at the collegiate level, and it was one that I certainly have not forgotten. It was versus the Bradley Braves in CR6 Season 5. But tonight, as I mentioned, the best of three format. Chief, tell us a little bit more about what territories we're going to be heading to this evening.
I want to quickly say that it seems like you're the Red Tails good luck charm, so maybe it's going to be that semifinal game. It's going to be broken. At least that streak's going to be broken, but let's go over to the map bands today. It's going to be Oregon, Coastline, and Clubhouse. Barton's defense first on Clubhouse, and it's going to be the Hawkeye defense first on their map selection, Coastline.
Coastline, always a good one to get. Doesn't matter really what level of siege you're playing at, intercollegiate or the professional scene, the map Coastline always gets some exciting moments. And another little note here as well, a reference to that other game I just talked about. Coastline was one of the maps that we had played. I did a little, not necessarily VOD review last night, but a trip down memory lane, so to speak, in looking at that matchup and how it went, and kind of cringing at the old casting of mine, the squeaky 17-year-old Sticula. But here in this series, I'm expecting probably this one to get drawn out. I feel like when you go down to JUCO, you get teams that really have experienced each other a lot. We already mentioned a previous meeting last season, and they know how each other play. And maybe there's been some roster moves, maybe there hasn't been, maybe the teams have changed up their play styles. Either way, we're going to have to find out all that information here on the server tonight, Brian.
Barton's going to be represented by 5 phenomenal players, all currently underclassmen, all currently freshmen. It's going to be Toaster 500, Urfy 9, Salt Archer, Joe Burrow, LSU, and Jester rounding out the Barton lineup. And since you are the Hawkeyes, good luck charm, I'll let you introduce your favorite roster.
The Hawkeyes. So they have Lobster, Pete, D-Bots, Atlas, and Wagons. I think Wagons was there from the last time. I try to remember all the players that I cast. I think Wagons was there. I'm pretty sure he had been playing at that level. One interesting note as well that I did manage to check out, Hawkeye, since they played in that game, moving into this level, have actually gotten way more support from their school itself, which is really cool. You always love to see the dichotomy, right, between the schools that are varsity versus club, how that impacts funding, things like that, and the ability for schools to support and keep these teams involved at the highest level possible.
I mean, legitimizing esports has been growing over the course of the past few years, and something else that has been growing has been the high percentage of Finca bans, especially currently in the ongoing Siege Invitational. However, Reese, I don't know if I was quite ready for the Warden ban. Again, LMG meta has been well defined over the past week, but Warden, beautiful blue smart classes? I don't know if I'm on board for that one.
Yeah, Warden ban, that's not a common one, but it would lead me to believe probably going to be an astronomical level of Ying play here. Gosh, what do you do when you don't have Warden? I mean, you're going to be bringing Arun, Jaeger, Wilmai, everything in the kitchen sink to try to put a stop to some of those Candelas, and especially in the context of Oregon as well. Ying, one of the most powerful operators. First step composition here, we had a little sneak peek into a possible sniper play from Wagons. The Blackbeard, not so sneaky though. He'll be shown in this initial composition. You think that's going to be a 6-pick?
No, they're going to keep it. They're going to keep it all the way. There's a 6-pick that you're talking about, Ying being brought in, and this is an incredibly aggressive lineup. You have Ying coupled by Sledge, Habana, Twitch, and out of all operators, the Blackbeard, the gentleman with a giant face shield. And honestly, I know Blackbeard can be kind of this BM operator, but in the right scenario, Blackbeard can be an ace up your sleeve, especially up here on the top floor bomb site. You can place the Blackbeard shield on the south window rappel, the big window standing crouch angle, or the upside down rappel over to the west. There are so many angles where an upside down Blackbeard can completely cut the bomb site in half once you start to incorporate the Ying Candelos and the smoke grenades denying line of sight. All of a sudden, Barton's going to find themselves in a very awkward predicament. How do we defend our bomb site when the offense is just dropping utility?
And, you know, I was expecting Coastline to kind of take up that really aggressive moniker, right? But maybe we're just going to get that sort of sensibility applied to every map. Certainly can be possible when Blackbeard and Ying are set to terrorize a top floor defense. And I did take a look at D-Bots. We were trying to get a figure on if he had any previous aliases ahead of the broadcast. And I've noticed that he, alongside the Blackbeard, he manages to play quite frequently some of the other off-meta operator selections. Of course, in custom games, there's no active stat tracking. But in his ranked quick match experience, he's showing things like the Monty, the Glass Diffuse, and of course the Blackbeard.
Hey, don't hate on the Glass, another operator that's been receiving a lot of love recently in SI, and I'm glad so far that Hawkeyes is really doing their due diligence this round. We see them gathering information, and we see them identifying exactly what Barton is doing. There's an extended roam over the tower. That was Malusi occupying that space. That was Joe Burrow, who has now been forced to hightail out of that position because the Hawkeye offense has pretty much completely taken over the tower portion of the map. And in fact, it seems right now, at least Hawkeye is starting to show their hand a bit, that they're really interested in a linear push. Now they're starting to incorporate a rotation over the big window.
I like this little extra element that you've got there as well. Cutting off the big window is a big step for this attack procedure. Atlas with a sort of check-in on the middle floor thing, seeing whether Joe Burrow might still be on location. In fact, he is. He comes sprinting through the dining room, giving away a free audio signature there to Atlas, throwing away the proverbial interception to start off this play. As Malusi goes down, here's a grenade. Could be good for the Cade as it goes up. However, the Moroccan is able to step back. Toaster on the re-peek will ice out Atlas to trade back that earlier opening casualty.
Toaster's in a bad spot, though, Reed. Stuck over by the white stairs. Not going to be able to leave that position as they end up falling to Pete. Again, one of the players who rotated to that big window. Ying Candelos go off in the background, sending kind of the push on forward for Hawkeyes. But there are smoke toxic gas grenades in their way, as well as a smoke Mossberg shotgun close. Shoulder spotted, and wow, a beautiful shot from Salty. Wagons had no ability, or no reason to lose that gunfight. It was just good mechanics on the side of that smoke. And now that fast into the Hawkeyes, well, it's kind of been stalled dead in their tracks as you lose one of the most important operators at blitzing the bomb site.
Right, and you lost out on that opportunity to perhaps attack the objective in the 4 versus 3. Jaeger under some serious pressure. Going to be a big window execute. There's 30 seconds to make this happen. Some utility. They could smoke off the cross and try to use some of those stuns as well. Wouldn't be the worst idea. Here comes Pete. He does manage to make it into safe cover. And look at the utility left from the defense. No nitros, no toxic canisters, but Salty Archer is allowed to simply walk up on the defuse planter. Hawkeye's last 2 members a little scared to jump in this window right now, causing serious issues. Here comes the F2. Tries to tear around the corner, but a double crossfire out of the remaining Barton members is enough to stop the top floor progression.
What a beautiful job from the Barton defense to bring that round back, Reese. I mean, they lose Joe Burrow about the halfway mark of the round, a critical operator, their primary roamer off the board. That's going to put a lot of extra pressure to the Barton defense, who now kind of just has to bunker down and hope that they're able to delay the pressure of the Hawkeye offense. They do so through the smoke toxic gas grenades, and they do through the beautiful gun skill of Salty Archer playing close quarters with the shotgun. As soon as Ying falls, you can see what it did to the Hawkeye offense. They're forced to completely relocate, completely change up their offensive strategy, and pushing through big windows extremely dangerous, especially when you see those foot-level holes, and Salty Archer just walking in with that Mossberg shotgun, eager for a second kill. Well done to the Barton defense.
So on the rotation, now down to the bottom floor objective. Looking back at that last round, I think Hawkeye probably could have gotten more value out of some of their execute utility, and I suppose that comes down to Wagons and kind of his positioning. Perhaps there needs to be some better communication there for Hawkeye to say, Wagons, sure, on the LMG, that's a heavy-hitting operator, right? But the utility carries such an immense value in the context of pretty much every bomb site on this map. So when you lose her early, sometimes that does kind of pain you, and the rest of the utility from Hawkeye was not enough to make up for it. I didn't quite catch, the crossfire situation from those two players out on the window. The fact of the matter is the smoke was on such low HP already, you would have thought for sure, even if you missed the first couple bullets, she's not making it back into cover.
Well, I mean, we talked about earlier the use of the Blackbeard shield and the upside down rappel. I mean, you could do so on that north-facing window, and then smoke really doesn't have the luxury of returning back in from pit. They're going to either go through rotation and challenge a Blackbeard, or they're going to go through the actual door of pit, where they're going to find themselves meandering into that crossfire. So it's a very dangerous position, and I think the Hawkeyes were just kind of struggling during that first round, orchestrating where they want their attackers to be. But now that you're downstairs, or executing downstairs, Reese, there seems to be a bit of a wrinkle in this round. I think meeting room hatch is open.
A little bit of roam action here. We love to see it. We love to see the defense getting active, and that'll be Joe Burrow. Oh, spots the head. There goes the twitch. Fades away on the composition. Hawkeye, 4 versus 5. Dropped the first man. Where's the trade, though? Doesn't seem to be quite evident. The Red Tails not able to get in to smother away this defender. This becomes a problem because this is an individual stopping in its tracks a 4-man stack who is trying to compress on this. They see for the cuts, they're just standing there. They're wanting this player to fall back. The problem is the time sink that you get out of this. Ella knows there's a Blackbeard shooting at her. She's not about to step up and take that fight. Finally, now Pete will drone in, and that might get the Ella out of position. Nope, she's still sitting here behind Tuck, spots the drone, pops up to take it out. And so now a battle between the Hibana. Look at the support, though, from Jester.
So, Joe Burrow stuck in a corner, and while teammates are helping on the north stairs, they're in quite a pickle, but Joe Burrow's good for an additional kill this round. The crossfires of Hawkeyes are starting to be broken down one by one, and here's a flank up the main stairs. That's going to break another one of these pinch points. Jester is able to take that kill, and now Wagons, a player rotating in from green, is going to be forced to hightail out of that position and reconvene with B. Dots, the other remaining player of the Hawkeyes offense. Also, Reese, that diffuser is now isolated over by the tower side. The kill from Jester has paid more dividends than just a kill.
Right, and the dividends there are quite evident in the clock as well. 40 seconds left, similar situation as it were last time, but the key difference, Hawkeye were at an even footing when they executed onto the bomb site, at least from a manpower perspective. This time, they're 2 versus 5. They got the two, difference maker operators, though, right? You got your Blackbeard, 2 of his shields. They're both full health. As long as he could sort of work a pick here, you start to think maybe, okay, not impossible. Goes to burn the Surya gates. Here's a danger close left to that double door. Toaster fighting back against the pressure from the Navy SEAL. And D-Bots, as he continues to march forward, no control of the case. Don't ask me what Wagons is doing. He's not playing with his teammate. Perhaps was still worried about some kind of a roam threat as he steps to the rear stage. No defender bodies will present themselves, and it marks a second round for Barton.
A final offensive push that you're alluding to, the reason why we saw that taking place, the offense just wanted to establish a crossfire like they're doing upstairs to Joe Burrow, but the difference was it's 2 versus 5, and you kind of end up isolating the offense doing so. So to kind of reiterate what you're saying, it's better off to have those 2 attackers trying to push together, because at least that way you go for those trades. And speaking about Joe Burrow, what a brilliant job on that roam. There was a plethora of pressure that they were receiving, and they were able to maneuver flawlessly throughout meeting room and take those gunfights, being calm, cool, and collected, understanding exactly what the Hawkeyes defense, or pardon me, offense was doing, and just put that gun barrel in the right place at the right time.
And while we prepare for round number 3, I would like to tell you a little bit about one of our sponsors here at the NJCAA. Excuse me, the overlay was tripping me up there. The NJCAA. One of our sponsors is Lenovo. And Lenovo, they've got a great product. The Lenovo Legion knows you play to win. In order to stand out from the competition, you need equipment that matches the speed of your thoughts and actions. The Legion Y25 monitor delivers wins in the toughest, most critical situations with its extreme 1 millisecond response time to its insane 240 hertz refresh rate. The Legion Y25 doesn't just keep up, but does a lot more. Built for those engaged in a vast multiplayer battles at the tournament level, the Legion Y25 offers a 24.5-inch FHD IPS panel with built-in NVIDIA G-Sync capability. The Legion Y25 monitor is available at Lenovo.com and other such fine retailers. Back to the action here, though, Brian.
Rome being established by Barton, a 2-floor defense, one on the actual proper bomb site, meeting room, kitchen, and one upstairs. So that upstairs hold is going to incorporate map elements like the top portion of pit, but it seems like Hawkeye has no business dealing with that Rome. Instead, they've already established themselves a position in the bomb site, a foothold, as Lobster begins to go for the plan. Smoke grenades on the coverage, and the defense doesn't seem to be aware at all. Candela's also on the coverage, and now we find ourselves in a post plan with the Bayern defense completely unawares.
That's a tough spot to be in, and an even tougher position for the diffuser. The Jackal cuts across the main lobby. That was a big opportunity missed, however, by Salty Archer. They might try to long arm this. Salty Archer, you can't really defuse the bomb while you're prone. I like this aggressive move from Toaster, able to step out for one. Nearly brings up the sidearm to get Joe Burrow in the cut for two. All of a sudden, Hawkeye looking a little bit frazzled. There goes the ace. Joe Burrow, can he make a fourth? Running out of ammo, and the primary results to the shotgun. And Joe Burrow with a big league play for round 3 single-handedly saves the retake for Barton.
Incredible from Joe Burrow. We talked about their one army stand over in meeting room. They're able to replicate that once again in the same square area of the map, just holding it down and retaking. I mean, incredible round from the defense, Reese. They had no idea that the diffuser was placed. Great read from the Hawkeye to identify the loophole in the defense, go straight for the objective, go straight for the plan. But, I mean, that was just ingenuity on the side of the defense to collapse together. And sure, Joe Burrow has 4 kills that round, but it was everybody coming together because it took the entire 5-team arsenal to get all those kills.
Yeah, that was a team victory there, and it's a big one for Barton. A success on the tertiary objective is huge this early in the game, and as well what it tells you and kind of how this situation now commands the momentum on Oregon. 3 uninterrupted defense wins. Hawkeye getting close. They're closest on the post plant, but an inability to play that one from the far back. You really just need to recognize the cross angles. It's the biggest part about playing in the post objective. You need to cover all push-up from the defenders, and I think Hawkeye understood that. Did you see what Joe Burrow did, though? He didn't push up. He dropped the hatch from inside Armory with the teammate as well. I think the Aruni also dropped the hatch, came down like a phenom, and stopped that before it could really get much out of hand.
I think what we're seeing from Barton right now is just the defenders reacting to whatever is taking place. Let's go back to round 1. That was the Dorms execute of the Hawkeyes, where we saw them push in from North Tower, rotate over to the big window. Barton was completely calm, cool as a cucumber. They were able to change their gun barrels to the pressure that was taking place. And once again, we see them doing that on their tertiary bomb site. It is a team's ability to overcome a mistake that's going to separate them from the pack. And, I mean, they are definitely demonstrating why they are the 2021 fall champion.
And I think it's a good point to talk about as well. In any level of Siege with such a complex game, right, there is going to be mistakes. There's no getting around it. There's no team that plays perfect Rainbow Six. And it's your ability to overcome and to, make amends with those issues that's going to get you the win. Talk about an issue that turned into a big reward there for Barton. Letting the plant get down allowed the flank move by Joe Burrow, who was having a career-high game, 8-1 so far. If there's any player to watch series-wide, definitely going to be him on the Malusi.
You just lost your Jackal, one of the best operators at, well, tying down Joe Burrow, who is now once again relocated themselves in a corner of the map, ready to spring into action and come in from another flank. Right now, that's going to be the laundry stairs, and the offense, the Hawkeyes, well, they're very focused on completing their objectives in the bomb site. That's going to be opening up a portion of games, as well as start to break down the deployable shield. Jester finds themselves in quite a predicament here, Reese. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, 2 gun barrels on the side of the Hawkeyes trying to address them, and that's Joe Burrow, the man of the hour, currently 8-2, falls during this round, and a small bit of hope for the Hawkeyes offense as they realize that the main threat has been removed.
Yeah, finally getting some coverage on that star player makes this a little bit more possible. Jester on the trade, Lobster removing utility. Toaster with a C4 toss. It's good against the Ying. However, the Candela still sent out, but Lobster chooses not to push off the detonation of that stun, possibly killing this attack in its entirety. Now with the Twitch gone, Wagons is left against 4. Should be an easy, no trouble closeout for Barton. With the Ace's position now revealed, Jester on the hop back in. Salty will trade it out on a nice cut from Attic Pit to make it now 4 for Barton.
What we're seeing right now, Barton just has the bragging power to win their gunfights. And in round 4, it wasn't Joe Burrow. Sure, they find the opening kill, a critical death to deboss the Jackal, but it was other members like Jester stepping up when the team needed. Salty Archer back in round 1. What Barton is demonstrating is a team that is adaptable and moldable no matter what the offense brings.
And in the next round, an opportunity really, Hawkeye have to show us something here on the basement look. We know what their plan is, really. It was kind of pressure on the pillar area, and then they rotated. They rotated for main. And I feel like maybe there wasn't, the right amount of justification for that rotate. Hawkeye need to think about how they respond to a man-down situation, because right now they don't have somebody who's matching that ability to step up like Joe Burrow on the Barton CC side. You need somebody else who is going to fill that gap. And, I think it's a good kind of all-around generalization. You're not always going to have a star player, so you fill that void cheap by, using team play.
You can also fill the void through utility, right? I mean, the Hawkeyes are bringing out a decent amount of utility. You have the Ying Candelas, you have 2 sets of smoke grenades. Actually, Jackal's now bringing in Flamor. So you still have utility, right? You can cut off lines of sight, you can overwhelm the defense, and I think right now for the Hawkeyes offense, they should start to simplify their attacks and just kind of do a more traditional attack, leverage their gun skill, but also leverage that utility and maybe just do a bunkers push.
Yeah, I think there's no trouble in making a plan that is simple, that does not have a lot of complicated steps, because Oregon, right, it's a simple map, one that everybody knows how to play. And so when you make it simple, when you approach it from that easy perspective, it allows you more time to think about the complications and make that gut call. Are we going to deal with these roamers, or are we not going to? The problem that I would advise, some teams that play at an interscholastic level have difficulty making that call. They will, sort of idle on a middle option of not really doing either, not directing their take to push towards the side and ignore the roam, sort of sitting in a middle perspective where they do neither, and it can be quite troublesome because Siege is a game where you're always on the clock.
Unfortunately, Reese, I believe the Hawkeyes are kind of in that window right now. They have some map control, but not really enough to be comfortable here with 60 seconds burned into our 3-minute round. You haven't really addressed the roamers. Jester's still offside. The same thing can be said for Joe Burrow. And the Hawkeyes haven't really begun to address the top hash issues, which are currently all reinforced. Atlas is now starting to make rotations up on this middle floor, and there's a nice kill to have. Wagons is going to be on low HP, so you do have to be very mindful in the event that there's a nitro cell dispatched into your AO.
Seeming like this attack has more structure than we saw last time. Not having too much trouble with any kind of a crazy roam play in the meeting area means that the Hawkeye Red Tails are preparing for this front and freezer egg. They've got the utility. They've gotten the hatch open firstly, but now you see this second step that can get a little bit complicated for certain teams. It's all about burning the utility. Here comes some Candelas, tossed deep into the site. Do have a defender close left to that door near the Bosco position. All the Candelas causing difficult effects, and unfortunately one rolls backwards. Pete goes down after not having the coverage that he really desperately needed. 45 seconds to go. This is your window for Hawkeye. However, it might have just slipped. Joe Burrow able to lock down Lobster. D-Bots on the trade effort, but now as the other attacker goes down, it leaves the Jackal against 3. We'll go for the team move, but this should be an easy shutdown. They managed to get the player up to trap behind this metal box. It's an easy kill feed for Toaster.
Well done to the defense once again, and we just kind of see this grandiose setup downstairs where they are just putting their utility and they are forcing Hawkeyes to execute into them. Their smoke grenades, at least the offensive smoke grenades, are missing. The Candelas aren't finding their mark, and Barton is just well, sitting. They have deployable shields, they have long angles and cutoffs, and Hawkeyes ends up fatal funneling themselves. They start to walk into those mirror windows. Sure, the Hawkeye offense is bringing Twitch. They destroyed one of the mirror windows. That was the one that was facing into a freezer, but they still found too many bits of hard utility in their way, and ultimately came their undoing.
And a big emphasis point coming into this series, kind of one of the ideological forces running behind Barton, is they're looking to prove their win last year was not a fluke in the semifinal rematch that they played. And so in this context as well, I think they are certainly going a long way towards proving that right now. But on the other side of that idea, what is holding Hawkeye back that we haven't yet talked about from the offensive perspective? Because I think we've covered most points, but is there anything that really sticks out to you that's, absent here?
The lack of trades. Joe Burrow has been able to get multiple opening kills with no repercussions to the defense.
That's a fair point. I mean, the trade game is one of the biggest things in Siege that I think separates good teams from those who maybe haven't been exposed to that concept. I know for a fact there are certain teams really even playing at your T2 Challenger League level that have trouble with trading, and that sometimes don't have consistency in your ability to trade out your teammates and to refrag. The ability in order to make that happen, it's really comms. That's all it is. Understanding your teammates' positions, relaying that constantly, and working together to achieve a common goal.
This is an awesome use of a K. Did you notice that the barbed wire is electrocuted? So Barton has not only identified that the solo wall is going to be a threat point and the position the Hawkeyes want to push, but they've electrocuted the barbed wire so drones can't enter. And now the offense can't gather information. Everybody talks about, mute Mozzie meta, but what about electrical barbed wire meta?
Hey, there you go. That's a new way to stop drones. However, a Flores has dispatched the Rotero coming through.
Oh.
But wagons drove it right into the electrified barbed wire. This has been such a problem point. The thing about this level of Siege is you do get teams who are more willing to make adaptations, like this one. Oh, Lobster, move! Lobster, what are you doing? Okay, fine. He doesn't get blown up by the grenade. Thankfully there for the Twitch drone, which means Hawkeye do have the ability now to breach this wall, but the extension up above, that vertical pressure from Barton, is always something to watch because that's what they used last time to win the round.
This is a great adaptation. I have to say, a wonderful job to the Hawkeye offense to eventually break that barbed wire. Now they're in a position to open up that solo wall, already done so by pocket thermite charge. Salty Archer, though, will remove Lobster from the field of play. That's going to be the Twitch drone, which means that there are still ADSs somewhere in meeting room. They won't really be identifying. Pete on the swing, able to rectify the trade problem. Good for another kill, but there as a player sitting in that hatch with bullets raining down in front of Pete, they're going to have to relocate over to split.
This is the time where you realize that this push is not working and you make the rotation. D-Bot's able to gun down Joe Burrow. Oh, but Urfi, he mistimes his flank play. Esther on the prone. Might be able to spot out the Habana here as he inches his way forward. No, there's the cutoff from Pete. The Ying having a tremendous round so far for Hawkeye, looking to collect their first. Urfi trying to play from this laundry stairs position. A number of offensive angles cracking down on him. And oh no, the sledge slips the net. And on the repeat, Atlas takes it out. The offense will close the half with a single victory, better than nothing.
Reese, we had a few criticisms of the Hawkeye offense, and every single one of those criticisms were addressed and countered during round 6. We talked about the lack of trades. I mean, Hawkeye's offense got their trades. They got multiple trades during that round. We were critical of their utility usage, and when they found themselves in a very atypical defending strategy with barbed wire and electricity, they were able to adapt and overcome, leverage the Twitch drones to remove not only ADSs, but as well as that Cade Claw. The nade came in to remove the barbed wire, and that started the Hawkeye offense in motion. Pocket thermite charge goes on the wall. Now you have an avenue into the bomb site to begin that plant, and the Hawkeyes just began winning more and more of those gunfights. A great job for the Hawkeyes to overcome, but a 5-1 half is still an awkward position to be in.
Yeah, you don't get to five round wins in the first half and just have it be something that people don't talk about. It's a lot. It's a lot of power, but maybe we're gonna see this game be decided on the defense. I hate to say that, it's kind of a cliche thing to say as a caster, but you know, I don't think it's beyond the possibility here. However, I think within that narrative, it has to be proven to us, right? You don't just say that every game is going to be, you know, sided once or the other, because Siege is, as I mentioned earlier, a complicated game where things are not decided by numbers on a spreadsheet somewhere. Things are decided by playmakers, whether their name is Pete or their name is Joe Burrow.
I see a Rook in play, and Rook is an operator that doesn't really get to see a lot of love in competitive. However, with the SI or the Siege Invitational meta being practically nothing but grenades, well, Rook has been in play a lot more because Rook, well, guarantees that you can tank a nade. So with Hawkeye's bringing out Rook, do you think that's a reaction to the events that are currently taking place at SI?
I think that might be a bit of a stretch. I can't say for certain, though. Kind of an arbitrary thing.
Mm-hmm. All I'm saying, P90, Suppressor, Red Dot, best gun in-game right now. With that being said, Jester has a yellow ping on the other side of the wall. They know that there's somebody lurking from the Hawkeye defense. That's going to be Pete with bullets raining over their head. They're going to have to hightail it out of meeting room. There are drones, but what about somebody lurking over in green? That's Joe Burrow, one of the critical roamers of the Barton defense, now released onto the offense, and Pete successfully hightails it out of meeting room. Down the back stairs they go.
And while we do have kind of a parallel between the two offensive teams, Hawkeye, when they tried to confront the roam, they were a little bit slow about it. Barton, I wouldn't say they look to counter the roam. It looks like they're just trying to keep it in position, maybe put a bit of indirect pressure. The problem with that being, I think you kind of need to get meeting hatch open eventually. It's just such a valuable tool to have, because if you don't open that, the defense know that you're going to go for a front take. There is no back take that really ever happens without the pressure on the hatch. I'm kind of worried now that Barton has Toaster looking up top white, because that means they're a little uncertain about what else is happening on the map, but hopefully they're going to ignore that and make progress on the execute, because if they do, with 1:10, shouldn't be too much trouble. But now we do have a clarification on that roamer presence.
Once again, yellow pings are going to be the bane of the Hawkeye defense, though. They're still able to find that opening kill and able to convert another kill in their direction. So far, Oregon has been quite a difficult foothold for the attackers to establish on both sides, but Barton's able to get a few trades as Selmas begin to open up that freezer wall. New lines of sight are being created, but what about the line of sight from behind? Wagons is currently on a big flank. A flank drone with somebody occupying, but the call is not made. Wagons misses the shot, and that might be exactly what the offense needed. They start to storm into sight. Diffuser goes down, and a shotgun on the other side of the wall. The yellow pings have been the bane of both teams. Smoke grenade goes out, but does it find its mark? No, not good enough for it. We're now into the post plan. A 1v1. Both SAS operators, but it's now on the side of Jester as a longer range engagement, plus the head holes might be able to be enough to identify an SMG-11 bro. Yellow pings on the wall. Here's a swing from Atlas, lines up the shots and ends up missing it. That's going to be match point in favor of Barton. Well done on the attack, especially to rope things back.
Oregon might be progressing at a bit of a quicker pace than we initially expected. And as a reminder, I believe this is a Hawkeye map selection here on Oregon. So for them to lose this early would be a real punch in the gut. Never the way that you want to begin the best of three, by losing your map pick. So on to kids and dorms. Hawkeye showing us a couple good looks there defensively, but Barton even better in their ability to really strike back into freezer, cutting down those players. You have to speculate, Chief, what would have happened if Wagons hadn't messed up the flank, because I think that probably would have shut down any hope of that round. But, you know, Siege is not a game that plays out in, you know, these theoretical situations. You get the Siege that's in front of you as an attacker, as a defender. You play it out, and at the end of the day, a result is there.
All I'm saying is MK DMR Supremacy, one of the best guns on defense. Beaten Rodi's good too, but they both have angled grips, and one of them has a 1.5 times sight, so let the audience be either of which is better. Well, with that being said, interesting fact that took place during round 7. That was the first time that a team that has won the opening duel has lost the round. So it was actually 2 different opening deaths against Barton. but they're able to rope that on back. So great on them to be able to kind of break that statistic, because when you go back over to the Barton defense, they found 5 rounds in a row with opening deaths, which they were eventually able to convert into round wins.
You see, that's why it's good to have you here. You're my numbers guy. You get me all the facts and figures, all the opening kills, opening casualties, and the trends that go alongside those numbers as well. I suppose I was a little facetious earlier when I said Siege is not all about numbers. There's certainly a lot of stats that go into the way that you play the game, and Joe Burrow, he's got a big stat behind him, that entry threat atlas. Will he secure the trade? Oh, he does. Nope, not! I thought for sure that the Vigil was going to come away with it there, but no, it's Joe Burrow. Man, 8 rounds, 13 and 5. He might just walk up these white stairs like he's some kind of a tank, and sure he does. Here comes old Joe as he's ready to creep into the site, looks to the back of the bunks. He tries to cut down the Cade, but Lobster with a good little team play moment there.
Diffuser's going down. Hawkeyes don't know that their bomb site's compromised. We've been in this scenario before. A sneaky beaky defuse, good enough for the offense, and now the Hawkeyes have to spring into action. The Nitro Cells won't find their target. That's going to be Urfi on the coverage from Big Window. Lobster's in an equally awkward spawn. Bullets raining through that soft wall. It's MP5. MP7 has to find multiple kills. Good for both of them. D-Dots ends up falling, though, and Lobster has to break this tandem crossfire, which they'll be unable to do. Map number 1 ends in incredibly swift fashion, 7-1.
Wow, Barton really came into this game. They were warm, and they managed to just completely crush the Hawkeye Red Tails. And they steal it a 7-1, snatching up their opponent's map pick. And it was all thanks to Joe Burrow, who was so active in the early round. I'm sure he's going to be a force as we get onto Coastline as well. You see a player rock out on a structured map like Oregon, and you can only presume what happens when we go to the second map in this series for Coastline for Ibiza.
I mean, Joe Burrow was the playmaker. Offense, defense, there was very few things that the Hawkeyes could do to stop that individual player. But as they begin to set up for Coastline, I want to see more team play out of the side of the Hawkeyes. I want to see more crossfire. I want to see better utility utilization. I want to see better trades and better droning, because if you allow Joe Burrow to continue to perpetually exist on this roam, especially a map like Coastline, it's going to be a very awkward attack.
And we might end up having, you know, kind of a one-sided game if they're not able to get that ball rolling on a tougher map where maybe Joe Burrow is just going to be the same play style that he approaches with here. I think there will be a very important comms conversation right now happening for the members of the Red Tails. And we hope that on the other side of this break, they have what's prepared to tackle Coastline. The 7-1 victory for Barton Community College on the first map of Oregon was defined by the heads-up play and the electrifying efforts of one Joe Burrow. And so as we get onto Coastline, we're expecting that same pacing to continue, but we'll have to see if that plays out after the operator veto system. My name is Sticula. I'm here alongside Chief to guide you through the second map in our best of 3.
Barton's strengths on map number 1, Oregon, was off the back of Joe Burrow, but off the roam in particular. And now with Nomad being felled and the ban wave, I'm concerned, Reese, because what is one of the best operators to deal with Joe Burrow? Well, you pin them down with a Jackal and you pin them down with Nomads. With both those operators off the board, you're really going to have to rely heavily on your ability to drone and your ability to set up cutoffs, which, to be fair, were some of the Hawkeye's weaknesses.
Right, and you have to have the cutoff drones on Coastline because it's such a small map, because so quickly defenders go from anchoring on the site to being actively involved, retaking map control, getting into a gun duel. The flank drones, not only do they have to be, number 1, actually there and present, there is very little slack for your active support player to be swapping between those cams, because one missed call in a game like this especially, that's a big point for me here, Brian. These two teams will make a play, will make a decision in the moment, and there's like no delay between when they think about something and when it goes in motion.
And I mean, one of my favorite operators on Coastline is the Buck for that exact same reason. Most teams are going to elect to go upstairs to Hookah Billiards as their primary bomb site, and Smoke likes to sit in the corner over by the pink couches behind the bar, and they're usually the player that's tasked with, sitting on their camera and swiping through those cams. Well, if you have a Buck in play, or maybe Joe Burrow on that Ash, you send either the skeleton key sky high or one of the Ash breaching charges, and all of a sudden the floor is lava, the smoke looks down, and there's a couple gun barrels below him. So, I mean, there's a lot of moving elements to Coastline, and one of my concerns with this map is teams sometimes enter into Coastline like it's Gun Go Burr meta, where they just kind of fly into the map, slaughter everything, or get slaughtered, and really the best coastlines are the most tactical and slow.
Well, one departure here, we still have the operator vetoes from the first map to talk about, and the one that I want to mention as well is Warden. Warden was removed last map. Warden is up now on the coastline context. Do you think that's going to play a major role in the way that we see the defenders play?
I don't think so, because the Hawkeye's Ying really never paid dividends. The smoke grenades never landed. The Ying Candelas never landed once across the 6 rounds of attack, so I don't think Warden being in play is going to affect things that much.
That's a fair point. Sometimes you don't need an operator because that level of utility that you're facing is not as oppressive as maybe what you're used to or what the meta says it should be, and we are moments away from getting back in this matchup. But for Coastline, I want to talk to you about a certain element here, and it's for the Red Tails. We look back on Oregon. Let's go to Coastline. What do they need to use here? Not what do they need to change. What needs to be added on top of the earlier elements that we saw for them to be successful in stopping the momentum that Barton have right now?
It's just going to be interpersonal communication, playing together as a team. It's more than just trades. It's more than just drones. It's being on the same wavelength as your teammates.
Yeah, it's just the ability to calm quickly, effectively. You don't want to be, clogging up the comms with a bunch of nonsense. You need to be straight to the point, and you need to have, not only comms of defender positions, but your own position as well. I think that's a lot of an element that some teams don't think about. The IGL needs to know what you're doing. And if you're not talking to them, if the comms are silent, certainly, you've been in that matchup where you lose the first map, and the second game is just like nobody is there in the right headspace. Nobody is talking. I think it's important to throw out the first map, realize it's a best of 3. Let's get on to the second map, and let's force that decider, right?
I always actively encourage IGLs to ask questions throughout their attacking round, because the more questions you ask, the more answers you'll receive. And even if you get an answer that you're not prepared for, you can use your brain to start to anticipate what's going to come in front of you or how to start to break things down. Now, I want to also go back to the bans. We talked about Warden being a factor, but what about the Finka ban? I mean, Finka has been an operator that's been played a lot in the Siege Invitational, and she's starting to grow on me more and more, kind of like Thunderbird did, because I really feel an absence when Finka's in play. Because nades are awesome in the current meta. You get 2 of them, plus a Gon 6. LMGs are cool, and what about healing your teammates?
Well, you were hitting me with all the anecdotal references earlier, so I'll give you some of those as well. The Finka ban is something that we saw at the Invitational recently by Elevate against the Sonics, because Sonics are very well known for having their entry play on that Finka, and the ban was actually quite successful. It sort of upset the Sonics rhythm, and I think it might be something we see trickle down a little bit more.
Because if Finka's gone, who do you play? Do you go to an Iona? Well, rate of fire is different if you're using the ARX or the G36. Sure, you have nades and a Gon 6, but it's kind of a different mentality because you have to drone yourself in. Do you play Zofia? Well, if you do, you're probably going to have to start to burn ADSs, deal with deployable shields. Sure, you have 150 bullets in a magazine if you're LMG, but it's, again, a different mentality. And Finka is kind of an enigma of an operator where she's really designed with Gun Go Burr, and if there is an obstacle in her way, she's able to deal with it through her Gon 6 and nades.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a balancing thing as well. Having too many tools to defeat all the obstacles. I'm sure a lot of people, you've heard them talking about it recently. Having an LMG and then having the capability to clear Banshees, barbed wire, deployable shields. Really, is there anything that, the Finka Iana entry offense that we're seeing in the current meta come out? What can't they get rid of? What can't they stop? Because it's just so overwhelming. It does look like we're going to be ending up heading to a break, though, because we still have some tech issues left to be figured out. We're wanting to get this series back on the road as soon as possible, but we'll have to do that after the intermission.
The NJCAAE returns here with the match of the week. It's currently Barton versus the Hawkeyes. We find ourselves in the middle of map number 2, Coastline, as it's going to be, well, starting off here on the Barton offense.
We're going to see what the second match plays out like in this first half of our Coastline game. The Legion, an operator I was not expecting heading into this one, but you do get a little bit of extra power there. It's a shame that Legion, you know, has had such a fall off, right? Not even close to how popular he was in the past. You know, whether you want to say that's from a gun point of view or because you don't have, you know, the knowledge to have a goo mine trigger and instantly know where a certain attacker is across the map. But with the operator bans as they were, Mira is removed. It makes me feel like this is just going to be kind of a normal Coastline. I don't think you get really anything crazy here. It is important to note, Barton are beginning on the offense. And we didn't get to see much of them on the offense because, well, Oregon was so definitive. And so, in this game, watching for the first round, it's important to talk about Hawkeye's ability to play the entry. They have had some moments where it can be a little frustrating, because they would get the opener sometimes, other times not so much, and they wouldn't have that ability to trade it out. And, well, it was also a number of circumstances where that was kind of true for Barton as well, where they would sort of play keep away a little bit. And so for the Barton offense, you watch them with this little intel composition they've got here. I love this drone by Joe Burrow, sitting on the Cool Vibes sign. Look at all the utility that he's got. Absolutely everything in the sightline Hill managed to remove with no trouble whatsoever. And so Barton, despite the fact that they get that utility, they haven't really done much else on the map.
Slow attack. They're trying to leverage the openings in the skyline, and Salty Archer actually able to catch the rotation of wagons. So that's going to be Wamai, one of the most critical operators to the Hawkeye defense, because Wamai has, well, these pancakes that grow in their back pocket designed to grab airborne utility. They grow over the course of a round, and since the death took place about a minute 15, there's still a lot of pancakes still left in that pocket. So unfortunately, the defense won't be able to leverage all of that utility. But during this process, Barton is still a bit slow. There are deployable shields in their way, and they need to start to deal with that. You have to start to dismantle that utility and dispatch those RCXD drones.
And, well, that's the name of the game. The progress here from Barton, though, has it maybe been a little slow. Pete on the trade back there against the death of wagons. Always helpful to have Hawkeye something for their own, and then, oh, Barton keeping their heads above water, so to speak. Here comes the utility burn for the shield at base. D-Bots is full white. He'll have to back off. The grenade, as it goes through, does not kill the alibi. Oh, but Joe Burrow has managed to gun down Atlas. Plant is coming down right now, but it's denied by the alibi. Somehow she has still not been cleared from the space position. Salty Archer is good for a single kill, however, traded back by Lobster, leaving Urfi in the 1-on-2. Jaeger will step up right into the sightline. Oh, but Urfi, running the ARX, will run out of ammo, only having 20 in the magazine. Simply not enough right now.
Stuck on the outside of the hookah balcony, Urfi is going to have to make the push on forward. Information on a player sitting behind one of the reinforcements. But it's a proximity alarm that gives away the charge of Urfi, who still is able to lock down that kill with 3 seconds. Sprint to find your gunfight, but the pre-fires miss their targets entirely. And Hawkeyes, after losing the opening death, are still able to reel the round back in as they take round number 1 here on Coastline.
And, you know, we sort of had a little bit of that on the first map as well on Oregon. It was more from a context of the Barton defense, though, right? You remember that basement round where things got close and they were almost overwhelmed. But then in the last moment, the defense was able to step up and persevere, and a little bit of that energy there on the first round as well. As we go to the second, it's kitchen service that we'll see, and a change in the lineup. We had that Iana as well as the Zero composition. Now Lion and Gridlock are your 2 flex operators spotted in the second round lineup.
One of my favorite things about Coastline, Reese, is the fact that attacking teams don't necessarily need to run a hard breach. In the current meta, sometimes teams will bring out an ace, not necessarily for the Selmas, but because the AK-12 is incredibly good. And sometimes teams will bring out Habana because the type is an incredibly good rifle, even though it has low ammunition. we don't see any hard breachers and no pocket hard breachers. Buck has the ability to bring out that pocket thermite charge, but it's flashbangs instead being elected. So Barton has basically kind of condemned themselves into a top-down push where you take vertical control and you kind of remove the floorboards above the Hawkeye defense. If there's any defenders in the bomb site, well, they're going to find themselves in a very awkward predicament as they have no cover.
Yeah, don't ask me what Lobster was doing there with the impact grenade. Just sort of, I guess, press the G key on accident and a little bit of team damage as well as destroyed that linoleum floor. But you know, to have the Buck, I don't know if it necessarily condemns you to the top floor. It just allows the opportunity to create the vertical, I would say.
That's probably a fair point. Again, one of the good things about Coastline is there's a lot of ways to execute. You can do a pure linear push if the offense wanted to go in just from the other side of the map, which is going to be the southwest side. That's going to be through offices. You, in theory, could, but it's just nice to have an extra contingency, and that contingency would be those exothermic charges or those pocket thermite charges. Right now, Barton is setting up for that vertical play. They already have somewhat of a beachhead, and in fact, Joe Burrow on the swing using the lion call to identify Pete over in theater.
We know Pete has that signature playmaking ability. We'll see if it comes to the forefront right now as a battle prepares to erupt between the pinch here on this player in theater. All the back stingers begin to spread. The foot of the Jaeger spotted, and that's all Joe Burrow needs to claim the life of the German operator for that leadoff Barton kill. You do have a bit of a spread roam here as well. Your favorite gun, ACS-12, in the arms of the Alibi. Buck on the chase move. Oh, but a flashbang. Surely there's no way the Alibi's going to survive this. And the answer is a stern no. So now your Alibi's gone, and Barton lead by 2.
Wagon's taking a lot of damage. We're actually seeing the change of those flashbangs that now do, well, more flashy things. They used to be designed only to remove ADSs. Now they do their purpose-built goal, and that's helping achieve this, once again, foothold upstairs. And here's probably the hardest part of the round. Now that you have vertical, you have to start to maneuver those attackers to positions to apply pressure not from the top portion of the map, but also from the linear portion that's going to be from that top floor. I'm Toaster. Unfortunately, Reese falls during that endeavor, but look at the Hawkeye HP. Multiple players below 25 HP, and Atlas has taken some damage, sitting about the 80 HP mark.
For a moment there, Barton maybe looking like they were prepared for a simple hop-in from the big window. Wagon's feeling the pressure. He steps up, but it's the wrong move, and it opens himself up to the LMG. Now at 4 versus 2. However, the Maestro with a solid angle, cutting back on that courtyard pressure. Atlas forced out of the bomb site. Barton with full control of both service and cooking. Now Jester to begin the plant. Sophia's looking the wrong way here. There is an opportunity. Oh, but the impact grenade denies the plant. And now it starts to feel a little bit more hairy for Barton, who don't have the manpower to stop this move. Atlas playing quite passive. The plant coming down nearly halftime. They're going to let Joe Burrow stick the plant, and now with the diffuser on the ground, Joe Burrow goes down. Urfi tucked behind the corner, but Lobster has no idea. The Maestro has not checked close to the window, and now the Sophia knows surely where this defender is. What a misplay there by the Hawkeyes.
There were so many moving parts to this round. Mistakes were made on both sides, but ultimately when the diffuser goes down, the defense has to spring into action, and their low HP was not good enough for them to overcome all odds. I want to go to that impact grenade. That was genius and multifaceted. Did you notice that when the execution took place, a lion call happened, and there was a red ping upstairs? That was Wamai, that was Pete. And that's why we saw Barton offense elect to plant in that spot, because it was the only position on that bomb site that did not have line of sight from upstairs, the vertical. Unfortunately, they didn't calculate in the impact trick into their plant, and that's why we eventually saw the relocation to the plant spot by Triple Wall. It was incredibly multifaceted. Unfortunately, though, Hawkeyes did a lot of things well in that round, but they weren't quite able to bring it back.
Oh boy. If that tells you anything about the way the Coastline will play, I'm expecting this game to be quite a curious one here, at least for the second map in our junior college bout. Of course, we set the stage earlier. This matchup is very much so about Barton proving their consistency, proving to themselves, to their fans, and to some of the haters that their victory in the semifinals postseason, just in our previous season of the NJCAA, was not a fluke, was a legitimate victory in this competition, and it's something that maybe allows Barton CC to build upon. And so far, the first round, I mean, what really separates the first round from the second? What went well on Kitchen that failed on Hookah?
It was Barton's team play upstairs and their ability to find the opening kill. And I actually want to correct something that I said earlier. It was Pete that was the opening death, and it was Atlas that will mine the previous round.
Gotcha. So, we had a little bit of everything here. Barton, I feel like on one hand, I want them to have a lot of intel, but Barton haven't necessarily faced a ton of issues where it's felt like, oh, they're constantly out of information. Their drone economy has been pretty decent. They're not wasting drones, which is honestly a really refreshing thing to see. Here's Joe Burrow. Oh, what a shot by Joe right through the table. It might be an early set of a 2-kill spree, but that's a way to set up the progression on this round. And Barton's signature playmaker, he is sure in action here on Coastline.
D-Box is going to try to do what Atlas did in the previous round, relocate over into VIP as the Barton offense continues to pressure into both bomb sites using that vertical. Their back may not be watched. Again, Nomad is currently banned. That's why we see the gridlock in play. Wagon's a nice shot, and that was on the playmaker from the previous round. Salty Archer's unable to get this trade, though, because there's a castle barricade on the other side, which allows Wagons to relocate over to security.
Yeah, maybe Salty Archer should have broken the castle barricade first, then threw the flash. I'm not sure. The timing missed an opportunity for a kill there. D-Bot's still up in the top floor, being pretty untouchable, kind of just keeping himself at an arm's length. So a two-man defensive play right now. Barton don't have this castle barricade on the Towels door open. Oh, but they don't need to. As Toaster walks in, wins the one, now giving over Sunrise control, and of course Barton with an opportunity to play the objective. Once they're presented with it, they immediately seize upon it. Joe Burrow guns down Wagons. Could be another quad kill for this proficient player so far. Jester goes down, loss of the vertical control. Is it possible for the Warden in the 1-on-3? Looks unlikely, and Joe Burrow will, in fact, get the quad kill as he executes the Warden on the hop-through rotation.
I want to praise the Hawkeye's defense for constantly trying to retake upstairs, but during that process, they put their defenders who are actually on the bomb site, the anchors, if you will, Reese, in a really bad spot, because you're basically having the entire attacking force of the offense executing, why there's somebody trying to be sneaky peeky, making this superhero play. So for Hawkeye to be successful on that flank, either has to happen sooner or not at all, because if you're having a 4v2 or a 4v1 on a bomb site, I mean, you can have some of the best players in the world, but they're just not going to be able to overcome those crossfires.
Okay, well, it's a little bewildering there. I think Hawkeye's ability to play crossfires is certainly something they're going to figure out watching back on this VOD. Because they had a pretty decent gig going there. I mean, right, they had the wall was all reinforced off. It's one of the few areas that you've actually got on that double bar site that is legitimately a playable area, because there's no vertical that you can get above there. And you got a castle barricade, you got a reinforced wall. Now the amount of areas where you can actually get pressure on that player is so slim. However, Barton were like, hey, we got a little idea here. There's no player on the couches, so I'm going to walk through this double door. I'm going to stand up behind the Sunrise bar, and I'm going to kill you. Rather than, trundling around, wasting all this utility, I'm going to walk in the site because you've left an open door for me to step through.
Hawkeyes will not leave any doors open this round, Reese, because they've put a Capcan in play. An operator designed to slow attackers and potentially get some damage throughout each one of those E1D devices. Now, the things with Capcan are there's a recent change where you can put multiple Capcans on a door. Now, it's at the opportunity cost of coverage and square area, but you guarantee more damage. And it seems like the Hawkeye defense has doubled or almost tripled down on their roam. We see roamers across the map, some over downstairs in the Sunrise bar, and one lurking upstairs somewhere near Penthouse Theater. Not droned, not identified. Jester drops, finished off, but D-Dots tries to run for safety and ends up getting felled by the solo entry of Joe Burrow.
Look, I think I made my nomination for MVP of the game so far. Joe Burrow, how is he just in the right position to make a play every time he needs to be? I mean, aside from, then chasing the frag and walking out towards the bomb site, Joe is able to net the trade. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think the cheap answer is he's just a good player with good game sense. I mean, he's just constantly in the right place, and you can say, oh, sometimes it's luck, but then other times, I mean, he's always there, so it's more than just luck. It's that big brain.
Yeah, I'm not really into that whole luck perspective. I'm not superstitious.
Salty has an angle into the drone hole, thinking that there's somebody over by the planter or also by that vase, but are they aware that there's still somebody underneath Reese with the nitrocell and the cardiac sensor, the wall hacks? It may not matter though, as Lobster's the only player on site. A very awkward position. That was a player identified over by the drone hole. What? There it is. There's the wall hacks. Where's the nitrocell? Ripped and misses its mark. That's going to leave the planter open as I'm a Toaster begins to plant.
All right, well, now the bomb is down. Barton so consistent with their objective play. Murphy on the cut. 2 LMGs to stop this. Meanwhile, Watkins is he's trying to melee some of the track stingers on the main stairwell, wishing that he had some kind of explosive, and for all that meleeing, he just gets blasted when he steps up the stairs. Barton, a pillar of consistency in this match right now, despite kind of failing at the hurdle on the first round. They could not get it done through these next 3. And Barton, Chief, we know what they're like when they get on a roll, right?
And that consistency is stemming from their team play. I mean, Barton looks like a well-oiled machine. How often are we seeing them let a trade slip through the cracks? Very rarely. I mean, it's always somebody, whether or not it is Jester or Joe Burrow. I mean, honestly, they've been doing wonderful and making sure that they put their attackers in the right place at the right time. And teamwork really shows, especially on a small map like Coastline. They establish map control early. They start to remove those roamers, and from there, it's directly executed into sight.
I mean, it's simple. It's Coastline. It's straight to the point. Drop the complex siege and that little deployable shield there. Remember when people used to do that with Windows?
That doesn't work anymore, unfortunately. So
does it not?
That shield's the shield where it prevents the vault in through a door frame. That's why. So at one point, if you put it in a door like that, you wouldn't be able to vault over it, but Ubisoft has changed that, so even if it's a sideways shield, you can still vault it.
Right. Well, D-Bots is like, got the sixth sense. He hears you and he rotates the shield. I guess he sort of figured out that it was not going to work. And you don't want to waste a deployable shield in that position, right? You only have 2 afforded on this setup. I mean, where are you putting your other shield if you're Atlas here?
I mean, other than where it currently is, I guess you could do it over by the A-bomb chassis, over by Smoke Spot, but that's going to get destroyed from big windows, so you really don't have a lot of options for another strong deployable shield. A large roam taking place from the Hawkeye defense. Reese, we've seen this a few times today, where Hawkeyes are kind of dotted throughout the bomb site, or pardon me, throughout the map, but they have to play together as a team. The strengths of the Hawkeye defense is going to be off trades. Exactly what the offense has been doing throughout the day. And look where Joe Burrow is, and look at the rest of the offense. They've more or less established themselves over by DJ Booth, over by VIP, and now that they have this foothold, they're going to start to spring into action. Do they know about this lurker? Oh, most certainly they do, Reese. And B-Dots, no longer in this world. The smart glasses, the nitrocell, off the board. Pardon me, the deployable shield off the board.
Toaster-esque moment there as he is able to pop the head of the Warden, giving away theater control. Warden gone. Hawkeye have really had a terrible ability to hold inside theater. It feels like every time they try to go there, the play does not work. You almost have to wonder why have they continued to do it when so far it has not gotten them much value and is more so causing casualties and losses than any kind of actual feasible gain.
I think the reason why we see that roam is how else you're going to hold the bomb site. You can't 5-man anchor. You could probably do what you did the previous round with a nitro cell from below. Maybe you bring out multiple nitro cells and force the offense to do a 2 frontal assault, 1 on the top floor, 1 on the bottom floor. But I think we're seeing the Hawkeyes kind of grab at straws. They know that they need to slow down the offense, and they haven't yet been able to grasp the full picture yet. Maybe with the swing from Wagons, you might be able to rectify it. Good enough for 1, but 4 Wagons now against 4. A nitro cell to their name, so maybe you can find a few kills through that endeavor, but they've been spotted, and Salty finds that final kill. What a dominant half so far.
Yeah, we're seemingly back on the Oregon train, so to speak, here, as Barton are running off the track with an unstoppable bead of momentum right now, and Hawkeye, they've lacked critical team play elements. You know, all the points that I was asking you about during the, the post-game after Oregon, during the actual pre-game of this map, as well during the tech break that we had in the green room. Just the ability for Hawkeye to play any kind of a trade game, any kind of position holds, right? That set up over by theater, I think would work if you maybe just had some extra pressure somewhere else. Maybe you have one of the walls is open and a player is at 90, or let's say maybe you've got a player in VIP. I mean, you just have to add something else here, because each Hawkeye member is an island, and Barton are on some kind of Pacific World War II island hopping campaign as they topple the individual members of the Red Tails time and time again. And it's not a strategy that plays out on Coastline. Coastline is a gunning map. It's also a team play map. It's also the map that really can isolate and can show your ability to play as a duo on a roam, on an anchor, with that chemistry as well.
And I think we can see that chemistry if we go back to looking at the opening deaths and opening kills. I mean, the Hawkeyes currently only have 1 opening kill to their name. That was back in round number 4. That was a hookah defense where we kind of saw Jester YOLO drop the bathroom hatch without checking a quarter that was in the middle of the open. From there, it's been pretty much the Barton trade game and the Barton opening kills. Let's go back to the previous round, pardon me, the previous match. It's only been 2 opening kills across the entire series for Hawkeyes, and it gets just a bit worse.
What's that storyline about the opening kill conversion rate as well? I wanted to ask about that.
By conversion rate, you mean trades?
Just the ability to get the opening kill and then that team winning the round.
It has been every round except for round 4 and the previous round 5 on Oregon.
Wow. So entirely on Coastline, you're saying, right? It's just been, you get the opening kill, you win the round?
Except for round 4.
Gotcha. So, with Joe Burrow under pressure at the window, the blitz pick is certainly not what I was preparing to watch from him. Oh, what? Lobster with a single bullet. Talk about a bit of a recoil headshot there. Lobster able to mow down 1, gets rid of your gridlock player. Joe Burrow, I'm not sure what he's really going to get going here. Jester will go ahead and break in over by Towels. Pete has another one to stack the cards further in favor of the Hawkeyes. Little 2-man roam developing here in Sunrise. You know, you get some pressure in, you get rid of that player. This could go very wrong, but just the blitz in the ash. There goes Joe Burrow. Definitely not the shield player. This round going off the rails, and Hawkeye finally will snag one back.
For the first time, really, on Coastline, Hawkeyes has this defense where they're just taking gunfights. I actually think what it came down to was the confidence of seeing that blitz. Blitz was stuck outside the window. Blitz really can't be a threat because they have to vault in. So for the time being, it allowed the other members of the Hawkeye defense to find the kills. We heard the Alda Chime get one of the opening kills, or probably the trade back. And from there, the round kind of just started to spiral out of control for Barton. They were very loose on their push. They made far too many mistakes. And I think what we're seeing is almost, I'd hate to say it, some BM on the side of Barton, and they got a little bit carried away.
Yeah, the blitz, well, you know, JUCO teams, there are some of them that like blitz. I'm doing a little mid-game research here to see if Joe Burrow, if that's something he does choose to play a little bit more often than not, or if that's, something he does just onto the Blue World. This Joe Burrow account is only level 40, so I don't think we're gonna get any reasonable numbers out of the R6 tab there. But the point being, I kind of agree with you. I think the Blitz is just, you know, it's a little bit chintzy. It's a little bit, let's bring it out and have some fun there. But it cost them the last round of the half and certainly opens the possibility for offensive comeback here as we move to the second split.
Again, Drew, this is a rematch of last season's semifinals, and that series went 2-1 in favor of Barton, and Barton would eventually end up winning the championship outright back in fall of 2021. So it seems like Barton has gone back to the drawing board and has perfected their strats and have been able to develop even better strats. And their mechanical skill, too. Their team play is just top-notch right now. And the Hawkeye is really struggling to adapt to what Barton is dealing with, or bringing out, especially in attack. Now, sides have changed, and it's now the Hawkeye offense. So we're going to have to see what adaptations they can now deliver to the offense, and they've elected to bring out a lot of aggressive operators. Dokkaebi, Nook, and Ying.
Well, I mentioned that D-Bots does kind of pick whoever he feels like. Grenade in from the Nook. It's unsuccessful, captured by the ADS as the leadoff kill comes, and the man advantage goes. Lobster on the trade, rocking that DMR that you were hoping for back on Oregon. Not getting rid of that shield, though, it's a worrying sign for me. I mean, where was the burn? You don't have any flashbangs in this lineup. I just noticed that.
This is just the aggressive lineup, and it requires you to gun go burr, and if there is utility, the way you break the utility is not going to be through whipping nades or Gone 6. It's going to be winning those gunfights, and right now, Hawkeye not quite demonstrating that.
Yeah, that's a bit worrying. Pete with utility destruction on Cool Vibes. You have to be careful how long you spend here for Hawkeye. You don't want to be executing too low on time. Of course, the Echo not present in this lineup. Salty Archer, though, he's still got 3 toxic canisters, so you think about that. You don't want to wait too long. You don't want to kind of get a little bit slow down here, being too patient, right? That's kind of something that teams do struggle with, being too patient versus knowing when it's time to kind of force a play a little bit, so to speak. Vertical pressure is something that they've been working on. Here's a little bout between the Sledge and the Aruni. Jester able to take this position and kind of force a little bit further back. I don't hate the rotation from Atlas, but he needs a teammate in order to make this possible, because he's separating himself from the squad right now without a realistic chance of winning that battle. Now that you lose Pete as well, it just gets more dire for the Hawkeye attack.
Still nades on the side of the offense, but remember those ADSs have now been reset, so you're going to have to complete a burn through some bit of utility, or Reese, you could just start to win their gunfights. What on earth happened to the players of Barton? They just kind of fell off the face of the earth. This is going to result in a smoke toxic gas grenade to slow the push of the Hawkeye offense. However, Reese, there's a small problem. You no longer have bits of utility, and in fact, I'm a Toaster 5000 is the only one left. Rotation is good for one, good for another one through the soft wall. A flick on over, forced to go to the pistol. He has the red pings, is good for the kill. Barton and I'm a Toaster comes back from the brink of destruction.
Wow. I mean, playmaking abilities from Toaster, 1v3. Who knows what Dokkaebi was watching? Not the right coverage on that assignment. And boom! Barton storm in, despite the 2 players literally fell off the map. Now, it's all for naught. Hawkeye are unable to persevere in the face of the execute. And an individual player, a playmaker, somebody, a name on the roster for Barton CC gets the round victory, notches another. And now, the Cougars are 1 round away from series point.
That was an incredible round, and Barton had no business winning it. Oh, look where we've gone. Penthouse Theater. I love this bomb site, and some people argue whether or not it's viable, some people don't. It's just a fun bomb site to see, and since it's so unusual and so rarely played, when you bring it out, a lot of teams kind of struggle because they're like, uh-oh, I don't know how to push this bomb site. I don't know where to go. And especially now with the changes to VIP wall, that north wall used to be a window. It is now a soft wall, which the defense of Barton has elected to reinforce. So the bomb site has kind of grown by an additional buffer room.
Right, I mean, you have extra spacing. There's also more cover inside VIP as well. I don't commonly see people put this electrical on the hatch. Usually we've got this below in the floor.
That's what I would have done.
How do you figure that the Hawkeye lineup, which is in itself kind of a little strange, is going to check into this penthouse strategy?
I don't think they will, because they won't be able to break the VIP wall, so where do you go? Do you go through DJ booth? Do you drop the hatch? I don't think they're going to be in a position to kind of deal with this unique bomb site.
I kind of agree with you to a certain extent. I don't know how much the blitz is going to help you. It's just going to be down to Hawkeye's ability to gain entrance. The footholds are going to be so helpful in pushing this blitz back. He's not moving that direction. At least the foothold's over by the 90 area. This time he's close up at theater. Worried a little bit perhaps about the white stairs walk up from any defensive realm down towards the lobby. One player applying a bit of pressure. Little utility on the way. Wagons with the Candela. A second. Yeah, that's not going to work out. Urfi guns him down. Here's the blitz with support from the rest of his squad now. A C4 badly missed. Does nothing to stop the pressure. Salty Archer does not have his C4. Jester makes the situation a little better, though a little more believable that Barton might move on to match point, and here comes the value out of that Tachanka. Barton really have shown us some good strategies today.
Atlas holding a long angle, just kind of praying that Barton's going to end up walking into their crosshairs. But Reese, that's not really an active strategy. You're kind of putting yourself in a very awkward position.
Whoa.
Good read on the Toaster. I mean, 2 pixel peaks against each other. And the offense is finally able to find a kill in this round, but Reese, is that a little bit too late? You've only removed a Malusi after all, who has a bulletproof camera, and all of her utility has already been placed throughout the field of play, so it's not like you removed the Tachanka or somebody with a Nitro Cell. Speaking of Nitro Cells, a player with a Nitro Cell is able to find that kill, and the bulletproof cameras are also paying dividends as there's yellow pings going off. Barton has full tabs on what's going on. V-Dots against 4. A blitz, no primary weapon, but a shield that goes flashy. This is going to be a difficult comeback. We saw one in the previous round, but not here possible in round 8. The previous season champions find themselves a match point.
The shotgun was waiting, and the blitz came running. And there goes Hawkeye's chance to win on that penthouse objective. Barton just need to close out one more round left in this game, and they will achieve victory. It'll be down to kitchen and service. And that round just never really got going. Hawkeye, their execute was non-existent, and their plan seemed to really get bogged down in the details. I mean, the pressure from along the way, the Tachanka keeping them away from, getting up outside that theater door. Really, Barton did a great job keeping the separation. That's what won them the round, I think.
So, if you're Hawkeye, how do you come back from this, Reese? What do you do to rectify your coastline offense to deliver you into OT to eventually win coastline?
I honestly, I think you need a different game plan, because this Blitz Dokkaebi Ying thing that they're doing right now is not working. I think they need more ranged soft breach. I think they need a Zofia. I think they need probably some flashbangs as well. It's strange that they just think Ying is going to be the catch-all for having flashes, when we have not really seen one good instance of a offensive burn. The utility oftentimes is staying up to the very end, and that's what makes me think, this is just not the lineup that you want. Blitz is a great operator in very few contexts. Like, Blitz has one job. Clear individuals, push back roamers. Sometimes that can help the Blitz, or rush the site and just use the shield to flash. The way the Hawkeye are using it, it's not working.
Blitz still in play, but there's also an operator designed to counter. That's going to be the Oryx. If Blitz gets too close, Oryx is going to be able to Rima dash straight into that shield and knock the poor Blitz on their back. However, Reese, I have a suspicion that we're not really going to see that interaction yet, because the Hawkeye offense is currently queuing up outside of reception, and this could very likely be a rush. Candela's off in the background, as well as the phone calls. Hawkeyes have expended a lot of utility for this push, but where's the push?
They've done this before where they use all the utility and then come in on the last second, and of course it's rebuffed immediately. Got an LMG now. Surely going to keep away these players out at the kitchen window. Lobster able to gun down one. Nitro over the top. The cap can, I don't think is flashed. I think it's still, he is just running for it. Salty Archer has some kind of confidence that I need for my ranked matches. There goes Urfy, the Ash is in the sight. Salty Archer, oh, he swings the hallway to gunner down. And Wagons and Lobster are left outside the building trying to recuperate. Vertical spots the Jaeger. Lobster to tie the man advantage.
Lobster currently 12-6 on an absolute tear for the Hawkeye offense. I mean, they have been instrumental, and they're going to have to be so once again, Reese. They're going to have to find some kills. They also need Wagons to currently step up into the action, into the play. Wagons does have utility and does have grenades. One of those nades have been expelled downrange to move that Maestro camp. So now the information acquisition of the defense, it is going to be slowed just a bit. Unfortunately, though, the Hawkeye offense is still queuing up. No longer outside of reception, but it's going to be over by the window. Lobster falls, and the hopes of Hawkeye here in week number 1, well, all on Wagons, who's still outside.
I think Wagons' positioning kind of tells you a lot. Stared off to the pool for a moment. There goes his grenade. There is no extra utility to stop it. Grenade goes by. Does nothing. Sledge gets on his drone, realizes it's not going to be of any use. He will have to win these gunfights dry. And that's just a reality I don't see playing out today in the server. Barton are going to quickly snap up the series. 7-1, 7-2 on Coastline. A distinguished victory in the NJCAAE match of the week. The Barton Cougars are successful in the season opener.
It was a revenge match. It was the semifinals from last season, head-to-head. Last season, it was all 3 maps required. Barton, good in 2, and in fact, Hawkeye's only taking 3 rounds throughout this series. Really, what it came down to was the Barton offense and defense ability to constantly find trades, and more importantly, find the opening kill. 2 opening kills on the side of Hawkeye throughout both maps. It's a very awkward position to be in. I mean, they fought their hardest. They won some incredible gunfights. Lobster was clicking heads out of their mind, but in the end, that Dokumi DMR was not able to find enough members of the Barton defense.
And we will have an interview. I'm certainly hoping that it is Mr. Joe Burrow that we get inside the booth, because he was doing the utmost to help his team secure victory there. I don't know what, he just had a crazy ability today. I think he just proved that he was amongst the best players in this lobby. And in order to facilitate that interview, we're going to jump over to a quick break, but stick around, you'll want to hear this. Welcome back to the NJCAAE post-match interview. We've got special man joining us on the call. We've got Jester from Barton who is going to be joining us on the call. So we can go ahead and talk to him a little bit about some of the big facets that we had coming out of that match. Chief, what do you think is the biggest question here that we need to ask?
I want to know how they were able to overcome that Ying. And speaking of the devil, Jester, my friend, welcome to the casting booth. Congrats on your victory. I mean, you guys played phenomenally. I mean, your opponents were only able to take those 3 rounds. So what led to your success to today?
We just kind of got more like defense, you know, more droning for attacking, you know, making those call outs, and it was just more of team play.
So was that team play what eventually led you to overcome that Ying? Because they were bringing out a lot of utility smokes, Yings, and you guys seemed to be almost unfazed by it.
We were just doing the hard counters like,
Oh, my friend, it seems like you're muted.
okay.
Oh, you're back. You're
Hear me?
back. Welcome back, my
Okay.
friend.
Okay. We were just doing cross shots, you know, holding everybody's angles. Killing drones, so I don't know where we're at. Just doing the basics.
Awesome. Now, tell me about meeting room round number 6. where you guys ended up bringing out a Cade, reinforcing the solo wall over by Split, and using the Cade barbed wire electrical combo to eventually stall their entry. Who made that genius idea?
That was mine. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, a Cade reaches through the floor, so it can get both attic and bottom tower wall.
That
And
was
then,
incredible. That was one of
yeah,
those moments that just put a giant smile on my face. My friend, final
yeah.
question before I pass it back over to Reese. Tell me about Penthouse Theater when we went to map number 2. Was that part of your strategy? And are you now, a Penthouse Theater team?
Um, that was just like a little pocket strat we used. Bring out the Tachanka to make easy rotates through the wall, and just to watch the cross to theater. And that's about it, really.
All right. Well, my main question was, of course, I wanted to ask more about your opponent. Did you feel like they played any different, the Red Tails, than your previous meetings? 'Cause I know you guys have seen them a couple times in the postseason. Was it any different today than compared to in the past?
They felt like they were holding back. They played real tough first time during playoffs last season, but it just didn't feel as aggressive this time.
Yeah, it definitely it seemed like a mismatch. I watched a little bit of your guys' match in last season, and it felt like the teams were a lot closer together in play
Yeah.
style. But obviously now you've got the season opener out of the way. Are there any special thoughts towards the rest of the season for your guys' program?
We're just gonna just keep on working with communication, team play, crossfires, just get that down to a T.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the floor to you. Is there anyone you'd like to thank? Anyone you'd like to shout out? Now's your chance.
I want to thank the fans, of course, Coach Kurt, team coming together, of course, the family, always supporting us.
All right. Well, that's right on, man. Hope to see you do well in the rest of the
Oh,
season. But for now, we say farewell.
all right. See you later.
Take care, bud. Reese,
All
what a
right. Well,
phenomenal
that's the
matchup.
interview out of the way.
I mean, today's matchup was absolutely phenomenal. Only 3 rounds won by Hawkeyes. I mean, we come in from last season's semifinals. This was another matchup, and I mean, Barton completely blew their competition out of the water today. And honestly, this program is looking phenomenal entering into the next season.
Yeah, a big confident shot right here for the Cougars. Comparing to their last matchup, obviously things went much smoother this time, and I suppose that only stands as testament to the promising future that their school will have in this competition. Thank you all for tuning in today. Had a blast on this match, even if it was just a little bit decisive. We'll see you next time here at NCJAAE.